You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
To the Football for Kids podcast with me, Darren Rees. It's time for yet another new episode. This one is on a player who has a hugely inspirational story. A story that starts in Nigeria in the most deprived of circumstances. And with a lot of sadness as well. But it's a story that continues with someone doing some wonderful things to change their lives and their families' lives. Of course, in this episode, we're going to be talking about Nigeria's Victor Osimhen, who currently plays for the Turkish side Galatasaray. Before we get into this episode properly, a huge shout out to Kai, who I met at a school in Salisbury very recently. Kai kindly invited me to his school via his head teacher to go to one of his assemblies and do one of my live podcasts. Kai, it was wonderful to meet you. Thank you so very much for inviting me in via your teacher, and I hope that all of your classmates and everybody in your school enjoyed the live assembly podcast which I did. At the moment, I can only make it to schools south of Birmingham due to the cost of travelling any further. If I can manage to get myself a sponsor for the podcast, I'll be able to head to schools all over the country and even to Ireland, as I know there are thousands of you listening in Ireland. But for now, if you go to a school in the Midlands or down south or in London or somewhere in the southeast, then please ask your teacher to get in contact if you want me to come to your school and perform a live podcast to you and all of your schoolmates. Your school can get in contact via darren@footballforkidspodcast.com. Right, now that's out of the way, let's get into it, shall we? On no other than Victor Osimhen. Victor Osimhen was born in Lagos, Nigeria on the 29th of December 1998. It's said that where Victor grew up in Nigeria was an improvised slum. If you're wondering what that might look like, well, it's where people use scraps of wood, metal sheets, old plastic and any other materials to make their houses. These areas are often packed with many families living very closely together as they can't afford any better housing. There generally isn't any clean water or any proper toilets, which makes living pretty unhealthy. Electricity is a pretty rare thing, and many homes live off candlelight when it comes to darkness. Despite the challenges, more than any other place, these sorts of places tend to have people helping each other out. It's a tight-knit community where they share resources and support each other in every way they possibly can. It's fair to say though that the area which Victor was growing up in was a seriously tough area to be. He was one of 6 siblings and he had absolutely nothing other than his family and the loved ones who surrounded him. But because of the area which he grew up in, he knew that if he was going to get anything better, it required a serious amount of hard work. And it was and is one of the many reasons why he's been so successful. If this wasn't hard enough growing up in a slum like this, where life was dangerous and you had to have your eyes wide open at all times, well, when Victor was 6 years old, he very sadly lost his mum. This devastated him and his family. Victor was the youngest, and this was a torrid time for him, all his siblings and his father. Not long after losing his mum, Victor's dad then lost his job. He had to look after several children, and now there was no income at all. There was no money coming through the door, so their already incredibly difficult life was about to become even harder. Between Victor and his siblings, they all had to step up and find ways of getting money through the door. Not for an iPad or a PlayStation or anything like that. Purely to put bottled water, clean water on the table and to eat some food. He was living in real poverty, constantly hungry, constantly thirsty, and not in great health because what surrounded him. His brothers sold sports newspapers on the streets to try and get some money in. One of his sisters would carry oranges around in a basket and try and sell them to whoever she could. Really, she just wanted to eat them herself and bring them home to the family so they weren't hungry or thirsty. Victor was only tiny, but he chipped in wherever he could. He would knock on doors and ask to clean gutters. He would fetch very, very heavy containers of water and carry it for miles just to earn a few pennies. They all did these things, not for luxuries, but simply to survive. As I'm sure that you know by now, football is so popular in this world which we live in, that there are not many parts of the world where you wouldn't see a football shirt, or some sort of football on some sort of television. Victor fell in love with the beautiful game and was hugely inspired by the likes of Didier Drogba from the Ivory Coast and many of the top talented Nigerian players who made it out of Nigeria to go and play and earn amazing amounts of money. These African players gave him a dream, gave him something to cling on to, gave him the inspiration which he needed. Victor started to play football when he was just at primary school in Nigeria, and it's said that the playing field at the school was not quite what you would imagine. It was a dusty and dirty patch where all the kids on their breaks would kick anything they could find around like a football, whether that was a plastic bottle or bottle lid or any other material that would roll. When Victor and his school friends would play football, the majority of them would be playing on the dusty fields in bare feet. Not many of them were lucky enough to have any form of shoes. They all loved the beautiful game, they were all dreamers, and they all worked hard just to survive. Football, as they knew, could give them that form of escape which they dreamed of. Victor, at a young age, went searching in a nearby dump where hundreds and hundreds of tons of rubbish from Lagos was dumped and buried. This was a dangerous place, especially for a child. There were sharp pieces of metal, glass, chemicals, diseases, and it smelled worse than you could ever imagine. He was there looking for items that he could potentially clean up and sell. Anything to try and get some money for the family home. In doing this, he stumbled across an old pair of football boots that someone had chucked away. They were in a poor condition, but Victor couldn't believe his luck. He spent hours cleaning them up and making them look brand new. This find was the best thing he ever found, and now he could play football with an actual pair of football boots, even though they were far too big for him. It was an incredibly exciting moment for a young Victor Osimhen. Victor kept playing football at every single opportunity which he could. If he wasn't trying to find stuff in the local tip to sell, cleaning gutters or fetching heavy barrels of water for minimal amounts of money, you could bet that he would be somewhere with some sort of object, playing some sort of the beautiful game. Victor was utterly obsessed. Eventually, as time went by, Victor Osimhen got some opportunities to play in some academies in Lagos. Now, when I say academies, although these were amazing places in comparison to what he'd been used to, they were still so far away from what we experience in the UK, the US, Canada, New Zealand and Australia today. Nevertheless, they were an opportunity, and an opportunity that Victor would take with both hands and both feet. The coaches in the academy in Lagos had their heads turned by Victor, who would turn up barefooted most of the time. They couldn't believe the grit, the desire, the hunger, the attitude which this young lad had. He worked unbelievably hard. Victor knew that football could be an escape not only for him, but his friends, his family and his loved ones around him. Later, Osimhen got his big chance when he was picked to play for Nigeria's under-17 national team. They were called the Golden Eagles. He earned his spot by playing really well in his academies and in local competitions. And in early 2015, he played at a big tournament called the CAF Under-17 African Championship, where he was the team's vice-captain and one of the team's top goal scorers as well. His amazing skills in that tournament helped him get noticed, not only around Nigeria, not only in Africa, but around the world. When Victor was just 16, he became a superstar at the 2015 Under-17 World Cup in Chile. He scored in every single game that Nigeria played, including an amazing hat-trick against Australia in the round of 16. Nigeria went on to win the Under-17 World Cup, with Osimhen scoring 10 amazing goals and also making 2 assists. His 10 goals set the record for the most goals ever scored by a single player in the Under-17's World Cup. For this incredible performance, he was the Golden Boot winner. This made him a star to watch, catching the attention of top football scouts around the world. Nigeria's win was their 5th Under-17 world title, making it a real special moment for Osimhen and his team. After his amazing performance at the Under-17 World Cup, many big European clubs noticed Victor Osimhen. One of these was Arsenal, who were then managed by the famous manager Arsene Wenger. At this time, in 2015, right after the tournament, Arsenal invited him for talks and even offered him a deal for him to join the team. A lot of people thought that he would sign with Arsenal, but Osimhen made a smart choice. He wanted to join a club where he could play regular football and keep improving. The choice turned out to be a good one for his career, and he went on to do some great things. Victor ended up going to Germany, where he would play in the Bundesliga for Wolfsburg, and it's said that he chose Wolfsburg because they could almost guarantee him plenty of game time. Victor worked his socks off in every moment of every single game and in every single training session in Germany. He had injuries and niggles like all players, and it wasn't all plain sailing, just like life. And eventually he would leave Wolfsburg to go and play in Belgium. And after one season in the Belgian leagues, he would be snapped up by the top French side Lille. Victor Osimhen was so good in Lille, but after just one season, he was brought by the Italian team Napoli and became the most expensive African player in Italian football history. Victor Osimhen, the record breaker, stood out in Napoli like you wouldn't believe, winning awards like Young Player of the Year and plenty of others. He scored some wonderful goals. He assisted with some fantastic others too. He didn't just do all of these great things when playing football though, but he did it with a great attitude and a huge smile on his face, never ever forgetting where he'd come from. Now, Victor Osimhen is just 26 years old as I record this today. He's playing in the Turkish top division for one of the best teams in Turkey. He's made over 40 appearances for his country of Nigeria, and without doubt has many more years of doing incredible things like he's doing now. What a story, what a journey, what a man Victor Osimhen is. From the extreme hardship of growing up in the slums of Lagos, to hunting stuff on dangerous and dirty dumps, to becoming a multi-millionaire, inspiring millions and changing his friends and his family's lives forever. If the story of Victor Osimhen doesn't inspire you, I don't know what will. And we're gonna have to do a part 2 on this player in the not so distant future, because at such a young age, he's still got so much to achieve. So remember, if you know somebody who loves football just as much as you do, then please tell them about Football for Kids. And whether you're playing football soon, watching it on the telly or pitch side, I hope that you enjoy the game. See you next time.
podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Lowe's knows you take pride in every project. So take on what's next today with a free Select Craftsman hedge trimmer or leaf blower when you buy a 20-volt push mower. That's a $119 value on reliable, high-performance Craftsman tools you trust. For the power to do it all, build, repair, restore, maintain, go with Craftsman. Available at Lowe's. We help, you save. Valid through 5/21 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.